welcome to Jedediah's Corner. My name is Jedediah. I just want to send some thanks out, a lot of gratitude for everyone who sent comments and likes and follows, and everyone that pushed the message that I was trying to send out to the world a little bit further, so that more people could see it. And I'm very grateful for that. The only reason I'm doing this one reason and one reason only, it's because I think what Israel is doing is wrong. I think the occupation is wrong, and I don't think there's any justification for war crimes. There's a couple of kinds of lies that people will tell. Of course, if you're caught doing something, you're going to tell a lie to try and hide it. Well, some people do. A lot of people do. The second type of lie is a defensive lie. So let me just read the definition that's here at the top of the screen. The second type of lie is a defensive lie. These are lies told in order to avoid punishment or blame. People may tell these lies when they have done something wrong and want to protect themselves from the consequences, such as someone who tells their parents that he stayed at home studying for an exam instead of partying with his friends or her friends so that they don't get grounded. Defensive lies are typically told in order to avoid some type of negative consequences or harm like getting grounded. Israel has a whole department for comes from one man, which is pretty shocking. His name is Frank Luntz. Recently, we heard his leaked video call. I'm sure most people on TikTok have heard that by now, in which he says that we don't have a what is it? We don't have a divide problem. So I guess they're pushing the divide, which is pretty shocking. So this Republican pollster has been pushing the divide, and he's been accused by his former colleagues of basically crafting his polling and his recommendations to fit whoever paid him, basically. So they're not really trying to find out the truth. And you can see that in the language of this book. I started reading it about a quarter of the way in. This reads exactly like a sales manual for something like Windows. This is so the thing about sales and the thing about, this really complicated way of manipulating people and subtly changing their minds without letting them know that they're changing their minds. It's something that's taught very often. I was taught it actually by a Jewish person, a person that I love, a person that I have great respect for, great admiration for. And he's very good at sales. Now, I'm not using a trope, so keep that in mind. It is anti-Semitic to say that all Jewish people are good at selling things. That's not true. But this person in particular happened to be very good at selling things. And you know what he told me? He said all this stuff has been around forever. None of this is new, or we're not creating anything new. So you open this book, and some of the first things that you're going to find, you find that they are cautioning you to first let people know that you care, or at least pretend like you do. Let them know that you care, because if people don't care how much you know, how much till they know how much you care. I've heard that before, not from Frank Luntz, but from a guy called Tony Hody. He says, and he has a very famous quote: "People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care." Now, if you go into somebody's house to try to sell them something, do you really care about making a good connection with them? Do you think you're gonna become best friends with them and go eat dinner at their house a week from the day that you're there? Probably not. Probably not. But you want them to think that you're part of their family. You want them to think that they love you. Essentially, that's what my sales trainer told me. He said the goal, really, keep in your mind, is to make these people fall in love with you. Now, the people that don't want to spend a ton of money on a very expensive product, who sit through a 3 or 4 hour sales presentation in which you use carefully crafted techniques, not to find the truth, not to better serve the customer, but to manipulate them into buying something that they might not necessarily want or need through a whole range of manipulations, fear, and all kinds of stuff. There's lots of ways to sell things. So this book, the first couple of pages, as I opened it up, I go, oh my God, these are just the sales techniques that I learned and implemented. They're just written a little bit differently. So I'm gonna be going through it. I'm gonna find as much of it as much as I can, and try to do some content where we look at each issue and then each rebuttal that they say that you're supposed to give. And then what I'm going to do is I'll start writing rebuttals for us. I'll start writing our handbook because it's not very difficult to counteract this stuff. And a lot of people are online advocating for Palestine that don't know anything about the conflict at all. And that's okay. Don't let people silence you. But be careful. Don't speak out about things that you don't understand or you don't know anything about. Educate yourself. But what you can do is say it's wrong to slaughter civilians. It is wrong to shut off the water and the electricity for hospitals. So maternity wards that are full of babies all suffocate and die in the hospital. This is something that was done. So be critical, question everything. I mean, another aspect of this is hilarious. I mean, I've been noticing this for a long time. Every show that you watch, like all the late shows, they all cover the same exact stories. CNN, Fox News, NBC, a lot of these people, they all sound the same, especially when it comes to Israel. They all have the exact same talking points. How do they all get on the same page? The Gray Zone, a very good independent news organization that covers a lot of the topics dealing with imperialism. And if you look here, they're urging people, so to use these words. This is about Israelis, not about territory. They want you to empathize with the humanity of the Israeli people, which is not a bad thing. But they want to use that, just like they use the Holocaust to justify their crimes. They want to use the humanity of the Israeli people as a shield to hide the fact that this is and always has been about territory. How can you say that it's not about territory when you constantly mention Judea and Samaria? And where are those borders at? They're in Egypt. They're in Jordan. So if you want to reconstitute what you call the um, Greater Israel, you have to invade several countries, and you also have to kill all the Palestinian people or push them out of the land. And we have seen them doing that systematically for many, many decades. But this is what they're cautioning people to do because they don't want people to talk about settlements. They don't want people to point out that these settlers were allowed to atomize Palestinian land, especially in the West Bank. And that was allowed by Israel because they have no problem with that. What they're doing is they're holding the land, they're putting themselves in danger, they're stealing land from people, and they're protecting it with violence. And then slowly but surely, they're taking it piece by piece, and no one is able to stop them. I've mentioned this, I'll keep mentioning it. 33 times the United States used their veto vote in the Security Council to veto things that were already adjudicated, where lawyers came in and made a case, and the case was accepted by the international community, who is not all anti Semitic. They don't all hate Jews, but they do try to hold war criminals accountable. The Hague's got a lot of beds for you guys. Middle of the whole thing. And this is utterly unbelievable and atrocious. So polling was done. Not an analysis of what happened on October 7th, but polling was done of what would people react to most negatively. Not that Hamas massacred civilians, because they did. They did kill civilians. That's bad enough. But the response from Israel is unjustifiable, unless they try to pretend that what happened on October 7th was worse than it actually was. 31% of this focus group, and we know Frank Luntz pushes people to give him the results he wants. But regardless, they said that raped civilians would be the most atrocious thing, what bothers them the most. So they set out to manufacture atrocity propaganda and push fake rape claims, which embarrassed the New York Times. And I challenge anyone who thinks that Hamas committed mass rape to give me the name of one person that was raped on October 7th. You can't do it. Galabdush, her family came out very strongly saying that the New York Times manipulated them and lied to them, and that their daughter was not raped. There is no evidence of rape at all on October 7th.